All right, let's shift gears and shift over to the other side, right over there on the shag carpet. We got Brian and Edie and a guest.
It's really not shag, it's all purpose.
Okay. You know, a wave of athletes are among the many Cuban immigrants floating to our shores.
You know, funny you bring that up, Edie. Cuban baseball star Andy Morales, the third baseman DH, is the latest added to that list. He was plucked from the ocean by the U.S. Coast Guard last week and is now seeking political asylum.
Should he get it, or should he head back to Cuba? Here to talk about that from our D.C. bureau is Jack Martin, Director of Special Projects for the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and in New York, immigration attorney Michael Wilds. Thank you very much for joining us, both of you. Jack, let's start with you. Now, doesn't the U.S. and Cuba have a special arrangement regarding refugees picked up at sea?
Not specifically with regard to refugees picked up at sea, but we have a special arrangement that treats Cubans differently from people everywhere else in the country.
And what is that?
What we're talking about here is asylum. Asylum is for people who fear persecution. It is not for baseball players who are having to work for less money in Cuba than they could make in the United States. So it's not really appropriate in this case.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, now, I believe that under regular U.S. immigration laws, if people are picked up at sea, if they're in international waters, they go back. If they're in U.S. waters, they have the opportunity to come to the U.S. to apply for asylum. With Cubans, isn't there this one-foot rule?
No, well, in effect, anybody who's picked up has the opportunity to ask for asylum, whether it's a Haitian or a Cuban. What is different about the Cuban case is once they get on shore, the INS tends to leave them alone because of a provision called the Cuban Adjustment Act that allows them to become legal permanent residents in the United States after they've been in the United States for 1 year.
Michael, first off, when you look at this situation, look at Elian Gonzalez's situation, besides the age difference, Elian looks like he's going back. Oh, shouldn't this guy go back?
Well, many argue that people are trying to bootstrap themselves onto safe ground and avoid economic hardship and applications to the process by streamlining an asylum case. The fact is that this baseball player might have some political prominence. He may have a reasonable fear of being returned to Cuba. He should have a day in court. Many people have availed themselves of our legal system, and it's set up in such a way that we will call out whether or not a person has a bona fide application for asylum.
But if they get caught trying to leave Cuba, doesn't that sort of mean that they're going to get in trouble if they go back anyway?
Well, that's part of his asylum package. You know, an international baseball player is prominent and could apply for a whole host of visas. He didn't have to go this way. Many people who are coming from Cuba, if they can get out from Castro's dictatorship, could qualify independently for a whole host of visas.
Well, it just doesn't happen. Adrian Hernandez just signed by the Yankees that dresses a woman and sneak out, and Orlando Hernandez had that harrowing experience across oceans. He's now El Duque and a superstar pitcher with the New York Yankees. His brother snuck out years before that, became MVP of the World Series. It seems to me, Jack, that there's a double standard if you got extreme talent to play baseball. Am I right?
There tends to be a double standard, and there shouldn't be. We should have a unified policy that applies equally to all people, regardless of where they're coming from and regardless of what their sports talent is.
So it does sound like that there is some, you know, we had made we were joking off camera when this whole Elian saga began. We said, you know, if he goes back to Cuba in 20 years, he's going to be back here anyway if he plays any, you know, decent baseball. And we thought it was a joke until you see this guy, and
Mike, you got to admit there's some similarities here.
Well, of course. I mean, you have in both cases an issue of political prominence. If only because of the way they departed and the way they arrived to the United States, they've now availed themselves of a good case. But the question is whether or not ultimately the law is lopsided, whether or not it's appealing to an agenda from the Cold War, and if this old Cold Warrior, Fidel Castro, has outlived that era, whether or not the immigration law should be more universally applied. The fact is, a Cuban who comes to our shores in a year's time is permitted to apply for permanent residence, and that offends a lot of other people.
Jack Martin, thanks for getting up with us. We really appreciate it. And, of course, the Cuban immigrant problem is something that's going to get you up early for a lot of years, I think, because it's not coming to a close. And, again, Mike Wilds, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, what else is coming up, Edie?
Well, just ahead on Fox and Friends, the oceans of potions, lotions, and pills. We're going to tell you what works.
And no, I don't
if you are
need him
trying
yet.
to battle baldness.
Plus, she's Primetime's favorite surly sex symbol. We'll be shooting the breeze with Just Shoot Me star Wendy Malick.
And we're about to tackle the rock wall.
Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? If so, I can't imagine why. We've all got time enough to cry. There was so much I wanted to say, but those international long-distance fees were killing me. I spent the whole conversation staring at the clock. Then I went to Priceline.com, where you can name your own price. Now I'm pouring on the smooth talk without taking it in the wallet. Does anybody know what time it is? Does anybody really care?
Beginning June 16th, for a limited 4-week engagement, discover the motion picture the New York Times calls dazzling. Fantasia 2000 is a magical, musical, animated masterpiece. You won't believe your eyes or ears. 7 new sequences and 1 returning favorite make it arguably the greatest Disney film ever. 2 thumbs up for Walt Disney Pictures' Fantasia 2000, rated G. This limited 4-week engagement begins June 16th, only at a theater near you.
When you're building an IT department, you need to find the best IT talent.
Can you believe how fast they grew their company?
It's extraordinary. Where'd they find all those people?
And when you hire the most qualified IT professionals, there's no telling how far your company will go. OperationIT.com is dedicated to IT professionals and IT specialty firms. So if you want to access the best job opportunities or get new projects for your IT company, go to OperationIT.com and post your resume at the Career Center or company profile at the Business Center. With the ability to search thousands of current IT resumes and IT company profiles that are updated daily, you can staff and build your IT department overnight. OperationIT.com. How fast do you want to grow?
Today on Fox News Live, get your pet radar on. Former MASH star Gary Berghoff has a new series with a different kind of star. He'll tell us about it at 1:30 p.m. And Broadway's biggest stars come together for a one-night-only performance. Tony Award winner Bebe Neuwirth has all the details at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That's today on Fox News Live.
Hey, Steve, do you want to read the Breakfast Buddy today?
I think that's Paige, 11 months old, from down in Georgia.
Good job, Paige. We're proud of you.
Nice hat. Let's turn the page and come back live to our New York studios. Here we are, 31 minutes past the hour. You know where Edie is.
Well, she saw the wall. She set her mind to it. She wants to scale that wall. She's a woman that is very comfortable in a harness.
She said something about ain't no mountain high enough.
Yeah.
She's going to go climbing up there. The rock wall brought in today by Club Getaway. Oh.
You know, some people think the exciting part is climbing the wall. Other people think it's getting into the equipment.
Well, see, you call it a harness, but Edie referred to it as a trapeze.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so anyway, she's going to go climbing in a couple of minutes.
Didn't she marry a Walenda? Well, right now it's going to climb that wall. That is a huge wall. I mean, I've seen those walls that travel. That is a huge wall.
30 feet tall.
30 feet tall. What's that metrically?
92.
92 feet tall.
No, 92 meters.
I thought so.
I don't know what it is.
I'm just trying to make conversation.
Not to go that way. Hey, listen, a couple of, while she gets indoctrinated in the way of the wall, we'll see her climb in a couple of minutes. We got a couple of questions. We got a couple of questions today for you. Kathy Lee Gifford was on our air here at Fox News Channel yesterday, and she said, and I'm going to quote now, she said, when talking about somebody to replace her, she said, I really don't know if that person exists. 15 years of establishing an identity together, it's not easy for that person to come along and take the seat. So the question is she just being realistic, or is she an egomaniac? On the email, we've gotten a bunch of people who say she's an egomaniac, but with our live calls, we've heard people say she's just being realistic.
Whose line is it anyway? We have one of the stars coming here today. We're going to talk about, well, the worst line you ever heard, whether it's a pickup line or an impressive line that really wasn't accurate.
Yeah.
Right now, what is accurate is that Edie Donahue is now firmly, well, she has her safety precautions all intact.
Okay.
She's climbing the wall.
There you go.
Look at that.
She's
those aren't the ideal shoes, kids.
No, that's right. They do have special shoes, but Club Getaway didn't bring ours for us. The good news is no longer is she a social climber, she's an actual mountain climber, and we'll see how... You think you're rappelling, Brian. Let's see her rappel down in a couple of minutes, but right now, Lisa Carberg joins us from the newsroom with the latest.
Where do I go now?
How do I follow that act?
And nice shot.
That is impressive. Thank you, guys. Time for a little headlines, and we'll get back to that. Computer security teams may have trapped